or afternoon, boys and girls, and I'm reading Pay Attention, Carter Jones by Gary D. Smith. Yes, it's Little Red Riding Hood. Hey, how are you doing? It's good to see you. All right, let's talk about chapter 26 from yesterday. Everybody's out bowling, and it's Carter's turn up to bat. Do you think he's going to knock down the bells? I can't wait to see if Team India wins or if it's Team Britannica. Well, who do you think's going to win? I'm dying to find out. And chapter 27 is called The Drive. Chapter 27, The Drive. The drive is a stroke by a batsman who is aiming to attack the ball. Usually this begins by waiting for the ball, then setting the forward foot close to the pitch, well forward. Okay, so it wasn't the most glorious moment in cricket history. Still, it wasn't so bad either. Singh stood with the ball in his hand, not roughing it up, but sort of smiling. I think he could feel vengeance surging in his blood. He shook his arms, eyeing me. He shook them again, still smiling. He took his stance and quacked. Yup, he quacked. But you know what? I was in the Blue Mountains once. I stood where dinosaurs hunt and snakes slithered and crocodiles scramble. I was not going for a duck. Singh bowed the first ball, and I struck it wide. I shouted, "No!" to Headington, and he stayed at his wicket. Hopewell already had fielded the ball, and there was no way we would make a run. But Headington shook his head. The next ball I blocked wide of my wicket. The next ball I struck well right back at the boiler. And it might have gone a long way, but Syme tipped it up and Jenkins almost caught it. Still no runs and only 8 balls left. Headington shook his head again. He probably didn't think a stupid 6th grader should be batting. He wasn't looking like Christmas. Syme was sort of grinning this whole time, and every so often he gave his little quack, even though Krebs told him to cut it out. Then Syme, still grinning, bowled the next ball, and I have to say it felt like I was getting my eye in, because it seemed to come at me in slow motion. And I knew exactly how it would bounce and exactly when I should swing. And I did swing exactly when I should. The ball took off towards the covers, and I hollered, "Yes!" to Headington, and he took off toward me, and I took off toward him, and when we reached the crease, Headington hollered, "Yes!" and we took off again, and there I was back at the crease. 2 runs scored. 2 runs. And maybe I was a little excited because when the next ball was bowled, I watched it come at me in slow motion again. And I knew exactly how it would bounce and exactly when I should swing. Except the ball came higher than I expected, and the ball hit the top edge of the bat and flew behind me with not much on it. "Yes!" shouted Headington, and he took off toward me. And I took off towards his wicket like there were hunting dinosaurs and slithering snakes and scrambling crocodiles behind me. Talk about slow motion. You can't believe how long it takes to run 22 yards. It takes about 100 years. Even though when Headington ran past, he was screaming, "Go, go, go, go!" And you can't believe how it feels to put your bat down into the plopping crease. And then to turn to look at Singh, expecting run number 3. And then to look at Headington, who was standing with his hands clasped on the top of his head. And then to look at the grinning De La Pena, who was standing beside him with the ball. And then to look at Krebs, who was kneeling on the ground. And then to hear the butler, "Young Master Headington is run out. Team India, you are down to your last over." Krebs stood. He laid his pad on the ground. We all knew the score. 16 runs needed off 6 balls. He took the bat from Headington. He punched Headington lightly on the arm. He swung the bat low. Once, twice, 3 times. He walked up to the crease. Then he looked at me. "I know. It's just a cricket match on a middle school football field on the last Saturday in October. It's not even a full match. Hardly anyone in the stands even got the rules. The long file of middlemen were ready to storm the field because they didn't care who lost or who won. Maybe none of it made any difference. But watching Krebs stand with his bat looking at me, I saw way, way, way behind him a kid gathering wet sticks, then building a fire and getting it going all right, and then having it all swept away into the high, wet grass. And I wish Captain Jackson Jonathan Jones hadn't done that. I wish you more than anything he hadn't done that. Are you? Don't let the bells come down, I said. Krebs smiled. He laughed out loud. Then he hollered, "Pay attention, Carter!" And Sig handed Jenkins the ball, and Krebs took 2 more practice swings, and Jenkins got ready to bowl. And so it began, our last over. Krebs didn't screw up. Krebs paid attention, and it was so beautiful. The crowd watched from the stands, the 2 old guys in white sweaters standing the whole time. Vice Principal Del Blanco watched. The Longfellow Minutemen watched. The Seton Badgers watched. The guys from WZZN watched and filmed. You know, even the wind that had been blowing pretty hard, not like the Australian tropical thunderstorm, but pretty hard. Even the wind calmed down, like it was watching too. Mr. Lionel Krebs, our new district athletic director, watched. Everyone watched Krebs, who that day had the sweetest swing any cricketer could ever want, who looked like he could do anything anyone could ever hope to do with a cricket bat. He hit past Del Labena, who was playing cover. He hit over Hopewell, who was at mid-off. He hit over Jenkins at mid-on. It was so beautiful, Coach Karowski stopped clapping his hands and just watched. Sometimes even Team Britannica applauded. It was that beautiful. His eye on the bounce of the ball, the way he followed it into his bat, his extended arm, the smack of the ball against the bat, the blur of him in his whites, running across the wicket like he was gliding. And I was gliding too. He'd hit and yell, "Yes," and I wouldn't even watch the ball. I'd just watch him and run when he told me. We passed each other again and again, and I made dang sure I ran fast enough to get his wicket and then back to my own so he could keep facing the boiler. Only once he slapped it behind him. And you know what? He looked at me and watched until I hollered, "Yes!" And we ran and ran. And when the last ball was bowled to him, he took it on the upward bounce and drove it, and bounced it across the boundary. And the butler cried, "Well done, Master Krebs, 4 runs. And Team India went wild. And I think you probably know why. And so were the people in the stands and the Longfellow Minutemen and the Seton Badgers, and Coach Karowski was clapping his hands again. And the new AD. And the butler stood at the midfield and watched us, holding his arms around his portly self. And when Vice Principal Del Blanco came over to shake hands, he did it. And right after that, Team India and Team Britannica ran over to the butler, and I think we would have raised him on our shoulders, except, he was poorly. And then the Minutemen and the Badgers were all around us, and at the same time, the wind released from its hush, spilled from the low clouds, and piled a chilling cold all over us. But even that didn't matter. The 8th grade varsity cricket team picked up Krebs. He was a lot lighter than the butler. And you know who else they picked up? And they carried us both off the field. And we were laughing and waving our bats around. And when we got to the track, we had to walk through the crowd, and they were cheering and making cricket jokes, even though they didn't know really any real ones. And someone gave Krebs a flag, and it was the wrong one, a British flag. But he didn't care. And he handed me one corner and held the other, and it flew in the cold wind. And Krebs said, "Hey, Carter." And I looked at him. He said, "We keep the bells up." And the 2 8th graders announced from the booth above us, asked everyone to clear the track so the football game could begin. And it took a long time, but we finally did. And so we came to the end of our match with the bells up, with the bells up, with the bells up. And the next day, the butler was gone. So where do you think the butler's gone? It's very interesting that he's gone. And Krebs' dad is now the new AD, the assistant district he's the athletic coach is basically what he is for the That means he's in charge of all the sports. And both Krebs and Carter kept the bells up. I'm so proud of them. Pay Attention, Carter Jones by Gary D. Schmidt. Now we're going to be reading chapter 28 tomorrow, which is the milestones. I hope you're really enjoying this, and I'm looking forward to this book. We just have 2 more chapters. Don't forget that if you want to check out a book similar to this, you can go to our website, go to www.mccpl. You can place the book on hold. But once you do that, remember you need to wait for a phone call, a text, or an email stating that the book is ready for pickup. Now, if you call us at 334-625-4844, we'll let you know when, and give us the title of the book. We'll pull it from the shelf right then and there. Just give us a little bit of time to pull it and check it out to you, and then tell us the time you're coming to pick it up. And we'll be glad to put it in a plastic bag, checked out to you with the due date on it. And if you're returning books, don't forget to put them in the book drop. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm so excited.